All right, number 6, need a common denominator. Once again, if you want to multiply these two, that would work. Multiply that diagonal. Let's try factoring first, see if they have common factors so that we can introduce less number of terms. So this first one here, slide and divide, do whatever method you need. It's going to be minus 1. Negative times a negative gives you this positive. At the same time, it'll add up to a negative middle term. And this one appears pretty straightforward. 2a times 2a for this 4a squared. And if you multiply everything out, negative 2a, another negative 2a will give you the negative 4a in the middle. All right, so let's figure out a little bit of this. So the first one factors out into 2a minus 1, 2a minus 1. The second fraction has a denominator of 1 minus 2a. So for that one, if we factor out a negative 1, we'll end up with negative 1 plus 2a, which is the exact same as one of these. Okay, so what has to be introduced? And in fact, let's go ahead and rewrite this so we can, let's write it the other way so it looks exactly like the other denominator. All right, so 2a minus 1. So this one, we need to introduce another 2a minus 1, whatever down bottom, do on top. The other side, so this is my lowest common denominator. Negative 1 times 2a minus 1 times 2a minus 1. So the other fraction is missing a negative 1. For this guy, let's go ahead and multiply by negative 1 over negative 1. Okay. They will now have the same denominators, which will be negative 1 times 2a minus 1, 2a minus 1. We are adding in the middle, right there. Multiplying that gives you negative 1. Multiplying 1 minus a with 2a minus 1. What's that going to be? I'm going to go ahead and do box method off to the side just to make sure I get this correct. Not necessary though, you can just distribute and then combine like terms or however you feel the need to do it. 2a times 1, 2a times negative a, negative 1 times 1, and negative 1 times a is positive a. So it results in negative 2a squared. 2a plus a will result in 3a's there. So plus 3a minus 1. All right, let's go ahead and combine like terms in our numerator. So the only things that do match up be this negative 1 minus 1. So together, that'll end up being negative 2. Let's bring down the rest. Just going to put that squared for now. All right, at this point, let's see if the numerator factors out in hopes of one of the factors canceling with a factor of our denominator. All right, this numerator, one quick way of seeing if you can factor it is if you do the discriminant, the part underneath the radical and quadratic formula, let's see what that comes out to be. So that's where this is a, b, and c. So b squared is 9. 4 times a times c, that's 16. So that's negative 7. So if we were going to do quadratic formula, that would be under the radical, resulting in imaginary solutions. So because of that, it does not factor. The discriminant b squared minus 4ac did not result in a perfect square, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, and so forth. So it does not factor. So we are done for the most part. If you wanted to deal with that negative, we could. So let's see how else we can write this. So if you wish, we could factor out a negative 1 from the top. 2a squared minus 3a plus 2 over negative 1 times 2a minus 1 squared. And in this case, these would cancel, leaving you with a trinomial and binomial where the leading coefficient is positive. But either way is fine. I mean, it's not necessary, but if you were to check the key, odds are it would look like this second one. So that one is number 7. Or I'm sorry, 6. Yeah, number 6. All right, let's get to number 7. All right, number 7. Two ways of doing this. One way is get a common denominator for the two fractions at the top, so that it's one fraction. Common denominator for the two fractions on the bottom. And once you have that, so if you have a fraction divided by a fraction, you would multiply the reciprocal of the denominator. So that's one method. So you know what, I'll go ahead and do that one, and then we'll do it a second way. So for the top part, I need to multiply by 3 over 3. So that we end up with a common denominator of 3. Numerator becomes 3x plus x. So we end up with 4x over 3. And the denominator, common denominator, lowest common denominator will be 6. So we'll multiply that first fraction with 6, so we get 6x. They're both over 6 minus x. So 6x minus x is 5x. All right, we're dividing fractions. Don't do that. Multiply the reciprocal of the second one, so keep the first one. Flip the second one. Change the sign from division to multiplication. We get 24x over 15x. Those cancel. And we can reduce these by, let's say 3. We'll divide that by 3, divide that by 3. 8/5 is the answer. So that's one method. Get it? So it's a single fraction over a single fraction, and then multiply the reciprocal of the second one. The other method, so let's go ahead and do it a second way, and it does not matter to me which way to do it. They each have their advantages and disadvantages, just preference. Sometimes one is quicker than the other. The other method would be to multiply by a number, top and bottom, so that all these denominators cancel. So what I mean by that, so for this one, if I multiply the top one by 6, whatever you do on top, do the bottom, what's going to happen is we'll end up with 6 times x, so 6x over 1, right here as well, 6x over 3, resulting in 6x plus 3x, or 2x, I'm sorry. And the top is just 8x. On the bottom, we'll do the same thing. So 6 times this guy. So 6x over 1, which is just 6x. 6x over 6, which is 1x. So we end up with 6x minus 1x, which is 5x. And just like the previous method, our final answer is 8/5. Either way works. All right, so number 7 is done, and that is it for these notes. If you have any questions, please reach out to me on Google Class or email me.